It has been a year and a half since we last dropped into a mission with this group of prisoners. Last time we saw them was back in R7E1, where we barely escaped with our lives after restarting the central reactor to give Schaefer and Hendrickson complete control of the biocom system. But with how unstable Schaefer seems to have become since our last mission with him, I'm not so sure it's a good thing that he has nearly complete control. Well, not like we have much say over it, so it's time to get back to work, prisoners. Hello everyone, Professor Scaly here, and welcome to the R8A2 level guide. As always, we're going to be starting off with your loadout, and because this level is a bit special, we have two of them for you, depending on which objective it is that you're actually going for. So those of you who are going for a main objective run, you're going to want to bring along with you a biotracker, mine deployer, and 2 burst sentries. I recommend the biotracker since it is always good to have one, and there are shadow type enemies in this level, including shadow scouts you're going to have to deal with. Mine deployer will help out for some of the alarm doors in the level, as well as a blood door, or potentially even 2 we're going to have to make our way through. And when it comes to the sentries, these are just to give us a little bit of extra firepower to assist us during those alarms, as mines are not necessarily going to cut it, especially when we have to deal with a full zone alarm a little bit later in the level where mines can help out a bit, but mines are only temporary, sentries will actually last from start to finish. A thing to note though about this level is that there's not a single tool refill anywhere throughout it. So the amount of tool you start off in with the level, that's all you get. So it's a good idea from start to finish to not just blow all of your mines and your sentries almost immediately. Hold on to them for the moments where you really need them and make sure you're spacing it out a bit, that way you have enough from start to finish. As for those of you who are going for the secondary objective, it's going to be a little bit similar. We're still running a biotracker and a mine deployer, but instead of the 2 sentries, we're actually going to be bringing 2 seafoam launchers with us. Reason for it is we still want a seafoam launcher to help us out with some of the alarms in this level, as we will be re-seafoaming doors a little bit. There's a total of 5 nightmare scouts we're going to have to make our way through and kill, and since 4 of them are in the same room, shooting them isn't really an option, even if you do have a client using the scattergun or somebody with a sniper with boosters. And even on our way to extraction, quote unquote, we're going to want to seafoam some doors behind us to buy us a little bit of extra time. That way we do not get overwhelmed while we're trying to do a few full team scans. And since, again, there's no tool refill anywhere throughout this level, having only 1 seafoam launcher isn't going to cut it, as we're going to be running out way too soon. Dropping down into level, you'll see that your main objective is, well, technically nothing to start off. When you go into the mission, your objective stack is completely empty, and it isn't until Schaefer and Hendrickson talk a little bit and update your stack that you actually will have an objective to do. So starting off in zone 50, there are no resources in here whatsoever, but there are a fair amount of enemies you're going to want to deal with. And there's also the bulkhead door to your secondary objective, but we're doing a main objective only run to start off with, since this is one of those levels we have to do 2 separate runs, so we're going to be completely ignoring this. We're just going to make our way through, dealing with the enemies, and at the back end of the zone, we'll find the security door to zone 51. This door just simply having a full team scan tied to it, and zone 51 is pretty much the same thing as zone 50. Fair amount of enemies to deal with, no resources to collect, and at the western end of it, you'll find a security door to zone 52, which also has a full team scan tied to it. Zone 52 itself is going to have no enemies or resources whatsoever, but there will be a terminal we have to put a specific command into. And once we do that, our main objective is technically completed. All that's left to do now is make our way to the forward extraction point. So we go back onto zone 51, go to the northern end to the security door zone 69, which is now just unlocked. And before we can open it up, we are going to have to deal with the class 5 alarm that is tied to it. And as you can see with this map overlay, there are 2 different locations enemies could possibly spawn from, and what we're going to want to do is make sure every single one of the doors I've highlighted are shut, and then these 2 in particular are going to be mined, and that's it. As for your sentries, I like to have 1 or maybe 2 of them facing towards that western small door, as more often than not, a lot of the enemies during the alarm will take that route to get into the room. And if I'm going for a secondary run, in which case I have 2 seafoam launchers and no sentries, I will immediately seafoam that western door, and then I won't seafoam the eastern one quite yet, as it is not guaranteed enemies will actually try to take that route. And then throughout the alarm, I would just simply re-seafoam the doors a little bit, not too much. We want to conserve, I'd say, a little less than half of one of the seafoam launchers and then the entirety of the other one by this point. So re-seafoam the door maybe once or twice, but that's it. Rest of the alarm, you're just going to want to simply shoot the enemies. Speaking of which, the enemies for the most part will just be regular strikers and shooters, but there will be a few giant strikers and potentially hybrids here and there, so be careful of them. But once you're good to go and everything is set up, activate the alarm, work on all the scans, and once you finish it and deal with all the enemies, you can activate the checkpoint scan and finish that, and once it's done, the door will automatically open up. As for Zone 69, this is sort of a central hub room. In here, more enemies to deal with, a fair amount of resources to collect, so go on ahead and keep an eye out for all of them, and there's going to be 3 different security doors, one to the west, one to the north, and one to the east. Now, we're going to want to head over to the eastern door first, the one to Zone 68, because upon examining that door, you're going to be told that the door is under lockdown and you're going to need 4 encryption keys in order to open it up. And when this happens, the northern and the western security doors will come out of lockdown and you can now access them. Before we go to them though, we actually want to go into the southeastern room of the zone where that terminal is, because we could get one of our 4 encryption keys from it. So put the command into it to get the first one, and then at this point, it's kind of a choose your own adventure type level. There are 4 other terminals we could get encryption keys from, 2 of them being to the west and 2 of them being up to the north. And of course, that's 5 in total and we only need 4 of them, so we could completely avoid one of those 4 zones. But for the sake of the guide, of course, we're going to be talking about every single one of them. So starting off, I like to head over to the western security door, the one to Zone 54, which is going to be a blood door. Slap a mine on the door, open it up, let the mine deal with some of the enemies, and you just shoot and kill the rest of them. Zone 54 typically has a fair amount of enemies sleeping inside of it, so they're going to wake up and you're going to have to deal with them afterwards. But once everything has come out to you, you've killed every single one of them off, you can then go to the zone itself. As for the zone, be careful in here as there will be a fair amount of corrupt scans, and just like R8A2, if you step into any of them, it will spawn in a tank, which is just a waste of your resources, but make your way through as there will be a fair amount of resources in the zone to collect, and in the middle of it, you will be able to find your terminal. The thing is though, you cannot get the encryption key from this terminal quite yet. Instead, you have to put a special command into it, I believe it's an override command or something, which will cause a full zone alarm to initiate. And as you can see with this map overlay, there are a few different locations enemies could spawn from, and what I like to do is shut and mine all 3 of those outer doors, and then I will place down 1 or maybe both of my sentries in the room, kind of like you can see the background footage, because as long as all of us are staying over here, the enemies will just funnel into that narrow little passageway to get to us, which makes it very easy to deal with them. Now, if you want to use both of your sentries, you can. Doing so though will more than likely completely or mostly deplete both of them in combination with the previous alarm, so you won't have any for the rest of the level, which isn't that big of a deal, but if you want to conserve some of it, go on ahead and just hold onto one of the sentries to ensure it does not run out of ammunition. But once you have finished the full zone alarm, you can then go back to the terminal and get the encryption key from it. And also, another thing that has happened because you have finished the alarm is the western security door to Zone 55 has now been unlocked. But personally, I actually don't like going into Zone 55. I find that that one is the hardest encryption key to get, so after I'm done in Zone 54, I just backtrack into 69 and then take the northern route. But for those of you who are interested, it's going to be a blood door to get into Zone 55. Zone 55 will have more corrupt scans and a fair amount of resources in it, but the reason I don't like dealing with that full zone alarm is because there's no doors I could shut to mine or C-foam. My sentries are going to be pretty low, so I won't have them to help me out. And to make things even worse, during this full zone alarm, a decent amount of hybrids will like to spawn in, as well as flyers in the room with you, which can very easily get you killed if you're not properly prepared for it. So if you are a madman or you just like defying me and you want to get this encryption key, I recommend save some of your sentry ammo so you can actually utilize one of them for this alarm, and have one person who will prioritize the flyers, that way you don't take a lot of damage to them. And of course, once the full zone alarm is finished, you can then go back to the terminal and get the encryption key from it. But that covers everything down the western route, so let's now go down the northern route. This one's starting off with the security door to Zone 56. When it comes to Zone 56 itself though, the entirety of the zone will be covered in pitch black darkness, and the only type of enemies you can expect to see would be regular shadow strikers, potentially a hybrid here or there, and 2 shadow scouts patrolling about. How I like going about it when it comes to the zone is just if there is a shadow scout in the room, I would just snipe it with a precision rifle or something else to get rid of it, even if it does wake up the rest of the enemies, and then I'll try to melee as much as I can, and if need be, I will expend a little bit of ammunition. More often than not, the shadow scouts like to spawn in a room where no other enemies spawn, so it's pretty easy to just shoot them with a precision rifle and not worry about anything else. But just make your way through room by room. There's a fair amount of resources in here, so of course keep an eye out for them. And at the back end of the zone, you will find a terminal with an encryption key on it. And once you're done inside Zone 56, you can then go to the security door to Zone 57 at the back of it, which will also have a full team scan, and 57 is pretty much the same thing as 56. Pitch black darkness, more shadows, potentially more hybrids, and 3 more shadow scouts patrolling about. And in one of the very last rooms of the zone, you'll be able to find another terminal with an encryption key on it, and of course you can use the terminal to ping the numerous amount of resources throughout the zone. But at this point in the level, you should have the 4 encryption keys that you need, so grab a nearby resources and backtrack to Zone 69, then go to the eastern end to the security door to 68, which will now just have a full team scan tied to it. And upon entering into Zone 68, no enemies or resources in here whatsoever, and this room should look familiar as it's one of the first few rooms you saw back in R8A1. This time though, unlike in that level where you went to the southern security door, you're actually going to want to head up to the northern one, as that's the direction you have to go to get to extraction. That security door though to Zone 67 is going to have a Class 2 dimension alarm tied to it. And as you can see with the map overlay, there are a few different locations enemies could possibly spawn from, and I just like to make sure these 3 doors are shut and mined, assuming that they are still intact. The previous full zone alarm actually could get rid of 1 or 2 of those doors, but if they're broken, no big deal. Again, just shut and mine the other ones, and that's about it. If you have any sentry ammo left over, do not utilize it for this alarm because it's only a Class 2 and you can complete it fairly quickly. The thing is though, once you finish both sets of scans, you're going to want to open that door and run for extraction as quickly as you can, as an endless alarm will initiate the moment you finish the proper Class 2 dimension alarm itself. There will be a few regular strikers and shooters sleeping in here, but you just run right past them or melee them as you're running out. At the back end of it, you will get to the extraction scan, and once you get here, just quickly turn around, place down your sentries if they have ammo left in them, and just get ready to hold out for a little bit. Scan doesn't take all that long to finish, so just hold your ground, and once you get it to 100%, you're done, and you've completed the main objective of R8A2. Now, for those of you who want to go about doing the secondary objective, it's actually pretty unique how we have to unlock that bulkhead door. Starting off in the mission, you're going to play pretty much the same way as you did before. This time though, you got 2 seafoam launchers instead of 2 sentries, but the only thing that's really going to affect is the Class 5 alarm you have to deal with to get into Zone 69. However, we already talked about that earlier in this guide, so we do not need to go over it again here. Once you get into Zone 69, clear out all those enemies and grab the resources from in here, but before you start going into those side route zones, you're actually going to want to go into the first room, go down below behind the wall of ivy where that hidden terminal is, which if this is your first time seeing it, then surprise, secret terminal, and that terminal is how you actually unlock the secondary bulkhead door. However, that terminal is password locked, and this is where things actually get pretty unique, because that password isn't hidden anywhere in this level. It is a 10-digit password where all of it is hidden back in R8B2. Specifically, the first 5 digits are hidden in a place you can only get to during a main run of that level, and the last 5 digits are hidden in a terminal that you can only get to during a secondary run of R8B2. So if you want to do this legit and actually get the experience of it, you're going to have to go back and play that level 2 times through. The first half of it is hidden at the end of a main route when you get teleported back into the main hub room, although this time it's all filled with sand and there's gunshots in the background. And you have to go to the terminal where you initiate the final alarm from and just initiate the alarm, do the full team scan, and then stay on the terminal a little bit longer, and after a short delay, the first 5 digits are going to appear. As for the second half of it, you need to go and do a secondary run, and when you get teleported out into the dimension where you fight that Kraken, it's the same thing. Put in the command which initiates the full team scan, finish the full team scan, and shortly afterwards, the 5 digits will then appear on the terminal. Once you have both parts of it, you go back into R8A2, get to that hidden terminal, put in the first 5, do a dash, and then put in the second 5, and that will unlock the terminal. Now, if you don't want to go about doing that and you just want to simply get the level done with, then there's an alternative for you, thankfully, which is either just looking it up on the internet or, more reliably, go to the official GTFO Discord and go to the user search function in the top right where you can search keywords or people's names and whatnot, and just type in A2 pass, and if you do that, a person's name should appear. Because there is a legend in the community in the official GTFO Discord who changes their nickname to whatever the password is for that week. And yes, you did hear that right, for that week. Because the thing is, every week the password for that terminal changes to something different. Once you have it though, put it into the terminal, that will unlock it, and then you'll be able to put in the special command unique to that terminal, which will unlock the secondary bulkhead door. Now, before we go running down there and go into that sector, we actually want to get a few more resources, because there are no resource packs at all throughout the entirety of the secondary objective, and the amount we have right now, while it could get us through it, it's a little bit of a stretch, so I like to collect a few more. what I'll do after I put the command to that terminal, unlock the bulkhead door, is I'll go to the east of the security door to 68 to cause the northern and the western doors to unlock, and then I'll head up north and I'll go through both of these shadow zones to collect all the resources in there. Now, it's very important you do this after you unlock the bulkhead door, because if you do the full team scan for that northern security door, or heck, I think actually initiating that full team scan will actually cause the command on that terminal to completely disappear. So you'll get soft locked and you won't be able to open up the bulkhead door. But go throughout the entirety of the shadow zone, just kind of like you would do during a main run. Try not to expend too many resources while going through here, especially not too much of your C-foam launcher or the mine deployer. If you play it well, then you might have to spend a little bit of ammunition, but that's really not the biggest concern. The tool refill is far more important than the ammo. But once you get all the resources from the 2 shadow zones and you've resupplied a bit and you're holding on to any of the leftover packs, backtrack to the beginning of the level, go to the bulkhead door to zone 70. There's no scan or anything tied to it, so you can just open it up. And once it opens fully, there'll be a small dark room and a full team scan will appear right in the middle of it. Step onto the scan as there's nothing else inside of here, and once you do, you're going to be teleported to the tutorial mission itself. Although this version of the tutorial is a whole lot more dangerous. So starting off in alternate zone 70, no enemies or resources in here, so just make your way to the back end where you find the security door to zone 71. This door is going to have a full team scan tied to it, and when you initiate the scan, a blackout is going to occur. So hopefully you brought some glow sticks or long range flashlights with you. But inside zone 71, this zone consists of 2 different rooms. The first one will contain a fair amount of nightmare strikers and nightmare shooters, and potentially a crawling scout. The second room will contain even more nightmare strikers and shooters, a sleeping immortal right next to the door, and if the scout's not in the first room, he will always be in the second one. How you want to go about doing this? You do not have to head to the second room whatsoever, thankfully, so you can avoid that immortal, which is a good thing, because if the immortal wakes up, your run is basically guaranteed over. If the scout is in the first room, I would just say, depending on where enemies are positioned, try to melee kill a few of them if you can. If it's a bit too risky, just shoot and kill that scout from a distance and just let the nightmares come out to you. If the scout's in the second room though, really easy, just melee kill everything in the first room. And then as you make your way to the back end of it, you'll find the security door to zone 72. This door is just an open door, no scanner thing tied to it. And inside zone 72, there's going to be a sleeping Queen Bertha at the end of the very first room. And right next to her is the door you have to go through. And to make things a little more complicated, it has a hack lock on it. So another good thing to bring into secondary would be some lock mounters, because this will make it so that there's no risk of you failing that hack lock and waking her up. But just all sneak together right past the Queen Bertha, get to the door. Don't open it up immediately because the next room will have a Nightmare Scout in it, and you don't want to open the door if the Scout's right next to it. So wait for it to walk away a bit. Once it does, open the door, go in there, shut the door behind you. And when it comes to that second room, there's going to be a Nightmare Scout patrolling about and 2 sleeping Giant Strikers in the back of the room. Since it's a Nightmare Scout, you will have to C-foam it. I just like to wait until it gets a bit closer to me. That way when I go for the melee, I don't accidentally wake up the Giants. And once the Scout's dead, go and melee kill the 2 Giant Strikers, and then you can open up the next door, and in that room will be a sleeping tank. And you do have to kill this guy off, so just split up a little bit or pull him into your room, whatever works best for you and your teammates, just so you have a little bit of cover, and then just deal with the tank as best as you can. Once he is dead, that is everything in the zone enemy-wise you have to deal with, but now we're going to want to prepare some doors for the final bit of the level. So what I'll do is I'll run back to that door next to the Queen Bertha and open it up, because there is a chance that later on enemies can spawn on the other side of it, which if they do and they break down that door, it is a pretty good chance that that Queen Bertha is going to wake up. So open up that door. When you come back through the big door that led into the room with the tank, go on ahead, shut that door, mine it, and C-foam it on your half. And then when it comes to the other 2 small doors in this room, just leave them both open. That way they don't get broken down prematurely. One of those doors will take you down a side route to the security door zone 76, which is currently under lockdown, but we will be coming back here later. The other door will take you to the security door to zone 73, which is going to be a blood door. And don't even bother placing a mine on this blood door, because the only thing that spawns from it is a single regular Bertha. So as soon as the door opens up, rush her down, kill her as quickly as you can, try not to accidentally shoot each other, and when she is gone, you can then go throughout the rest of zone 73. Nothing else in here, just another door you go through, and at the back end, a security door to zone 74. Now, this security door is going to have a class 5 diminished alarm tied to it, and it's pretty simple to set up for it because there's only one door that leads into your room, so go on ahead and shut, mine, and C-foam that door, and then throughout this alarm, you're going to want to re-C-foam the door until you get to the 4th set of scans, or maybe even the 5th one. But I like to keep this door shut as long as I can, because throughout this alarm, it mostly spawns in Nightmare Strikers and Shooters, but it also spawns in a brand new enemy, specifically a Giant Nightmare, which these things, despite their potato-like appearance, they're actually pretty dangerous because they can do a lot of damage with their melee and they can shoot a lot of projectiles at you, and they are also incredibly tanky. A regular giant striker has 120 HP. These things, I believe, have about 640. So yeah, I like to see from the door to keep the enemies out until I'm pretty much done with all the scans. Then when I do finish all the scans, ideally door breaks open, mine kills a fair amount of the enemies, and then I just get behind cover to avoid that giant nightmare while I kill off the rest of the nightmare strikers as shooters. And when the giant is the only thing left alive, I just split up a little bit because he does take bonus damage from behind, and I'll just mag dump him until he falls over dead. But once he and every other enemy are dead from the alarm, you can then open up the security door, and inside Zone 74, there are going to be 4 Nightmare Scouts patrolling about in this one big open room. And you have to kill off every single one of them. You cannot afford to leave these Nightmare Scouts alive. And it can be pretty annoying trying to kill them because most of the time they like to stay close to each other. My best recommendation is be patient. Wait for the Nightmare Scouts to split apart from each other and wait until you find one who is isolated. Once you get an isolated one, C-foam him from a safe distance and then quickly rush up on him and melee his tumors and kill him before he breaks out, and then just go and look for another isolated scout and just keep on rinsing and repeating until all 4 of them are dead. The first Nightmare Scout is always the most annoying one to kill, but once you get rid of the first one, the next 3 aren't all that challenging. Once all 4 of them are dead though, go to the back end of the zone where you find the security door to Zone 75. This one is going to be an open security door, no scan or anything tied to it, and inside that zone at the back end of it will be a full team scan. Now, before you finish this full team scan, you're going to want to make sure you heal up everybody as much as you can and everybody's ammunition is looking good. Because upon finishing that scan, the security door to Zone 76 is going to unlock, but now an extraction alarm is going to be initiated that spawns in waves of Nightmare Strikers and shooters. As soon as I finish the scan, I will run back out to the previous room. Once I get towards the end of it, the waves of enemies will finally catch up, so I'll start shooting them from the front. Very important, don't run past these guys, just slow push into them, just shooting at them from a safe distance and trying to make some ground bit by bit. And once you make your way into the next room, you want to keep an ear out, because at this point, you're far away enough that waves of enemies could spawn from behind you. And what you're waiting for is a wave to spawn from behind and nothing to be in front of you, because then you could just beeline it straight to Zone 76's security door. If another wave spawns in front of you, just keep on slow pushing bit by bit until either you eventually do get a back spawn or until a wave spawns in front of you, but it spawns behind that shut-minded C-foam door from earlier, in which case you can just run full sprint, shut the 2 small doors as you make your way through them, go on ahead and C-foam the one that leads directly into your room where the security door to 76 is. Once you get here, just do the full team scan tied to the door, and once you finish it, open it up and start running. Zone 76 will have nothing in it, it's just a corridor room, and at the back end will be the security door to Zone 77, which will automatically open up as you approach it. Inside Zone 77, there's going to be another full team scan, and once you finish this one, the level is completed. Or, kind of. It basically pulls an R8A2 on you where you're trapped. You can no longer escape from this area, and it's going to be spawning in an immortal as well as just infinite waves of baby nightmares. So once that full team scan in Zone 77 is completed, all you and your teammates need to do is just simply die. So you can either let the enemies kill you, or if you want to go out on your own terms, place a mine on the floor if you still have one left over, or just simply shoot each other, and once all of you die, you'll get your completion screen, and you have finished R8A2. And that's all there is to it. R8A2 starts the second half of the rundown on a challenging and also weird note. Having shadow enemies, especially shadow scouts, in an A tier mission shows that these upcoming levels aren't going to be holding back any punches whatsoever. As for the secondary objective, well, when I joked about Rundown 8 having an immortal in an A tier mission a couple months ago, I was joking, 10 Chambers. That wasn't me making a suggestion. That was me trying to be funny. A joke. Well, I suppose stashing away a lore log in the room that has the immortal in it is quite humorous, so hey, I guess it all works out in the end. As always though, thank you for watching this video all the way to the very end. I do hope that I was able to provide you with some assistance in beating this level. If you have any tips or tricks this level that you want to share, any questions for me, or you just have something in general that you'd like to say, please do let me know down in the comments. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more from me, and if you want to join my community, there's a link to my Discord down in the description, as well as some other links you might be interested in. Among those links being one to the official GTFO merch store, which, as always, I highly recommend you check out if you're a fellow GTFO enthusiast and you're looking to pick up some sweet merch. Until next time, seems like Schaefer's plans have gone from escaping the complex to completely destroying the whole place, and we sadly have no choice but to obey him, so we'll have to see how that progresses. And hopefully, I'll see all you wonderful people in the next video.